Hey everybody, welcome to Think Your Way to an Epic Life, and I have two serious rock stars and they're married to each other, so that's always fun. It's always fun to get a little banter between the husband and wife. These folks come to us as such a gift to our market center here in Albuquerque, and they came and taught today for 6 hours, and now they're going to be on a podcast, and then we're all going to go out to dinner, and then they're going to go to Santa Fe and do the same. I mean, the Energizer Bunny has nothing on Sarah Layson, and her husband Scott is running as fast as he can to keep up. There we go. Scott and Sarah, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, time is very, very precious, very valuable to you. So, talk to me a little bit. I'm gonna just kind of. You two met how many years ago?
What? 14?
14 years ago, yeah. Because we're coming on our, 12 years of marriage?
Yeah.
Okay, so 14 years you met, and was it love at first sight?
I would say so.
Yeah. We were, I just so happened to be at a leadership conference in Atlanta, and my dear friend and I had went to grab a cocktail and literally hadn't even grabbed a cocktail, and he walks in with his friends, and he bought me a beer, and then from there on out, it was love at first sight.
Yeah, well, it was really crowded where we're at. I don't know how detailed you want to get, but it was really crowded, and she's not the tallest person in the world, and I just looked at her and said, "You're never getting a beer," and so I just got her one and walked off. So that was
yes.
it, yeah.
And he came back to the table and sat down and started talking, and he's military, and I was very interested in going into the FBI. And so I really hooked him with my knowledge, or lack thereof, of policing and criminal justice. And the rest was history. I went back to Memphis the next day, and we started dating long distance for 6 months to a year. And
a year, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that is so cool. So that is probably, I think people need to know there's something special about long distance dating. It makes a marriage so amazing. So for a year, you didn't see each other unless you got on a plane.
Or drove. We drove.
Yeah.
That was a funny story too, if you want to share that.
No, go ahead.
So we met, and Scott was in real estate. We were talking about this today. And he was with a new home construction builder, and they did, 6 units, and then it was the market crash, right? And we all went from 60 to 6.
Yeah, so I got in 2007.
Cool.
My dad and I, we sold 66 homes our first year. And then in 2008, we sold 6. Oh. And I was like, wow, I have no money. And that's when I met her.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
So she had money.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I worked for higher ed, so I worked at a university. And so we were like, how are we going to make this work long distance? Neither one of us have money. And those that know me really well knew that I was going to make it work. And we did. We just drove back and forth. We couldn't afford plane tickets at the time.
Yeah.
And made it happen and talked a lot.
Wow. Okay, so when you have a long distance relationship, it's different from if you're in the same town. What are some of the differences that you think bonded the two of you together so well?
I think having to talk on the phone, because you can't see each other person to person, is you really have to listen to each other, and you really get to know each other probably on a deeper level, right? So it's harder for sure, and I'm not a big talker. That's kind of hurt part. So maybe I did a lot of listening, They fell asleep on the phone a few times.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we had to. There is a mutual respect that you have to have in long distance, and then you get to know each other on a different level, and you don't take the time for granted when you get to spend time together.
Absolutely.
Like I remember every time he would leave, and I was always very business driven. Didn't have time to date. Didn't want to date, and then with him, I was in complete shambles when he had to go back home. And that's how I just knew that he was mine and I was his, and that we were going to be together for a long time.
Oh gosh, yeah. I had the same deal, 18 or 15 months, and whoever was leaving, the other person was just like, wait, don't go, come back.
It's so hard.
And we haven't had an argument in 14 years.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Spirited conversations is what we call those.
Spirited conversations. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Well, it looks like you both have a lot of spirit. A lot of spirit. All right. So you started off, neither one of you's got any money. You're doing a job in education. You're not knowing what to do because you just lost your
Correct.
meal train that was 66 houses down to 6.
Yeah.
Oh, what was the next step?
So the next step was I realized I had to find something. So I got out of real estate, and this was when Craigslist was big. I was just applying to jobs on Craigslist. In between, I was just like, I got to make some money. So I started building websites on the side. I didn't know how to, just kind of taught myself how to. It's really, really dumb. But I built a coupon website, and it was actually making money. This was before Groupon, so I like to say I built like the first Groupon.
Right on.
But and it would make $300 or $400 a month, but it just wasn't worth the time and effort for me, so I shut it down. And then I got a job in dental sales, and I worked there for 6 years until you got into real estate.
Yep.
And then, if you want to talk about you ended up moving back to Atlanta when I was in dental sales.
Yep. That was when that was a year after we met, and then we moved. I moved from Memphis. I never moved out of Memphis. And I swore I would never move for a man, or I would never cook for a man, and I did all the things.
What a mighty good man.
I know. And no, I mean, it was incredible. It was hard. I had to leave a lot of my friends, and I'm very close with my family. But it was a learning year, and even we laugh. Even the first year that we were living together, we were pulling pennies together, and we. In a relationship, when you have to go through a hard financial season at any time, it truly shows who you are as a couple.
So you were able to survive the pulling pennies together. You were able to survive the long distance, and you live a little bit different life now.
Yeah.
Just a little different than that.
He still has me on a budget, but
We're still penny pinching though, so it's
Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, really, if you were both just alike, one of you wouldn't be necessary.
Correct.
yeah.
So, how do we go from you moved there? What happened for your career when you moved there?
so I told him. So I started cold calling companies, and the whole plan was I had to find a job there before I was going to move there. So I submitted resumes, and nobody wanted to take me because I didn't have sales experience. And I didn't, and I always knew that I had a gift in sales. Like, I love relationships and pouring into people, and I love helping people. And I walked into Six Flags, Inc., and Stephen Hurd, who is the sales manager at the time, I walked in, and he said, "You're going to be great at sales, and because there's a market shift, there are absolutely no accounts in this territory anymore." So it went from the best territory to zero business overnight. And they would essentially, we would seek out businesses like Turner, Microsoft, Southwire, large corporations to buy Six Flags out for a family night. And we lost all those accounts pretty much overnight because a lot of those, human resources divisions were not doing that for employee benefits anymore because they were having to lay so many people off. And so he just looked at me and said, "If you really want this job, I think you could do it, and I'm going to give you this territory, but just heads up, it has no business." And so I was like, all right, if I'm going to learn how to sell, now is the time. And then I get to be with Scott. So that was the risk I was willing to take.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was smart or not, but I had to get really creative in sales very quickly. So.
Okay, so how do you go from nothing in the territory and no one training you, I'm assuming?
So there was a lady at the time that taught us consignment ticket sales and how to take consignment tickets and then get corporations to subsidize it and then still get people to buy the park out. So we really worked very hard to talk to CEOs, COOs, and CFOs and to get into the door with them and explain the importance of employee morale in a very difficult market for a lot of people. As you're laying hundreds of thousands of people off, there is an employee morale issue. And so the subsidy program really worked. And I got in there and I cold called all day long. And it was difficult. And I would call the mailroom because I knew the mailroom would connect me to somebody in HR. And then HR, if I could get somebody on HR, then they would connect me to the person that was making the decision for any type of funding. And that's how I kind of worked my way up.
Gosh, okay. So how long were you at that gig?
Was it 3.5 years?
Yeah.
3.5 years. Oh my gosh. What were you doing during her 3.5 years of that?
So I was in dental sales, and she didn't. I don't think you touched on this, but you built that up to be the top producing market for Six Flags, correct? So,
No,
I went up for
I
the
find that
national
so
award.
hard to believe.
Right.
I went for the national award. I didn't get it. I think I was second, but I went up for the national award, which was awesome.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
she killed it.
Okay, so when you were a little kid, did you always sell the most cookies and stuff too?
I thought I was really good at coloring book pages. And my mom caught me at the end of the street trying to sell what I would think was my artwork, i.e. my beautiful coloring book pages to people. But yeah, no, I don't know where my knack for sales comes from. I would say probably my dad, because he's just such a people person. He's story oriented about everything.
Yeah.
And he's just got a big personality.
Okay.
But yeah, you were at the time.
Yeah, I
inside
was
sales.
in dental sales selling digital X-rays, and so I was inside sales making 80 to 100 calls a day, working out of a database. So that really prepared me for the transition into real estate. You know, I was already in real estate once, but I was in new homes, and I didn't know how to hunt for business. Right. So when the business wasn't there, I was like, what do I do? Fast forward, what was it, 3.5, 4 years? Actually, I was in dental sales for 6 years. We both knew corporate sales. We knew how to hunt for business at that point. So it was, and we knew how to stay in contact with people through the database.
Our house was really depressing for the first year. It was like, how many appointments did you make and how many times did you get hung up on? And what Boda box are we drinking out of this evening?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So someone just getting a snapshot, stepping into your world right now and seeing the humongous lives that you lead, probably wouldn't believe that you had to work that hard and make cold calls and all that stuff, right? Shouldn't it just be easy?
Yeah, I don't think anybody that, that's why I always tell everybody our story. Like, I want people to know that we had to pull up money out of a 401k. I want people to know that we pinched pennies. And we had to do a lot of hard things. Because a lot of people don't hear that story, and it's so important because we all have to go through that same journey to learn.
But you do that, pull money out of the 401k because you're betting on yourself too, right?
Absolutely.
And we wouldn't have done that if we didn't have confidence in the fact that we could be successful. We just didn't have enough money at that time
to get us there.
To get us there.
And I think it's
Correct.
funny when people think that we're successful, because we always say we're successful in spite of ourselves. And because we don't feel like we're at all, I don't feel like our journey is going to be an incredible journey, and I feel like we just started.
I agree. I mean, after just spending 5 hours listening to you guys teaching that amazing class, I agree. You are just at the beginning. You're just at the starting line. But that starting line is a different starting line than where your original starting line was. Yeah. And the difference between where you started and where you are is fairly astronomical, is it not?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We don't celebrate that enough. I mean, we don't stop and look back enough to say this is where we've come in 9 years. But yeah, no, it is. And it's very humbling. It's very humbling because I feel like we've been very blessed.
And there's still stresses at this starting line. It's just different stresses now, right? So we've got a team of 20, 22 agents, staff. So it's a lot to wear on a daily basis to make sure everybody's taken care of as well. So
new levels, new devils.
Correct.
Oh yeah. And it's completely different. And I feel like that's what I was telling somebody today. I mean, we started 9 years ago, but we're leveling the business up and in my opinion, a completely different level than what we ever even thought or we even sought out to at the very beginning. And now it's like we're starting all over again to get to the next level, right? We always talk about going from E to P, entrepreneurial to purposeful. And at every level, you have to have a reset of, all right, in order to take it to the next level or the next gain, I've got to go from entrepreneurial to purposeful.
Okay, so what got you here won't get you there.
Correct.
However, some of the habits that got you here you have to keep.
Yep.
How do you decide what habits do I keep and what do I give away?
I have a coach that decides that for me, and have incredible mentors. They really reset me. If I try to carry it all, or he tries to carry it all, we're not moving forward. We're moving side to side. And your network is your net worth, and having people stop and
Could you say that again?
your network is your net worth, and having people redirect you and guide you, and you being willing to receive that information is hard, and you don't want to, because you want to continue doing the things you've always done. One of my mentors said, Sarah, not everybody's going to like you the farther you climb. And that is very hard for me, because I want everyone to like me. But I'm learning it's not everybody wants to see you succeed as bad as you want to succeed. And you have a duty that, in my opinion, that if God has blessed you with that, in order for you to be able to continue, showing that light for others, that is your duty. And you might have to keep climbing when people don't like you, but you're doing what's best for what the gifts that you were given.
Okay, so most of the people watching this are entrepreneurs, and they're in growth mode, and they go through exactly what you're talking about. Every one of us who started here and has moved up at all has the crabs that are trying to pull us back down to where we were. And how do you prepare someone for that? Can you prepare someone for that? That their best friend really doesn't want to see them anymore?
Yeah, a lot of it's just keeping, that network of the people, like our team members. They hold us accountable. They expect excellence out of us, and they push us sometimes as much as we push them. But it's just, I don't know if I'm answering your question really, because you asked, like, how do you prevent those?
They're never
The pain of people rejecting you because you're successful.
But you have rejection in sales, and we're human, and we will be rejected, right? And so the only way to prepare for that is get very clear on your vision and where you're going, and being confident in that, and then having mentors to help redirect you. Because if you say that that's where you want to go, then you've got people that'll help guide you there. And nothing against the people that are your naysayers. They don't want to go there with you.
Well, they don't want you to go either, though.
It puts them...
You're leaving me.
Correct. And it's hard for them, because they know that they probably should go there and live a big life as well. And you are showing them that it can be done. And that's an internal conflict for them, not you.
It's kind of a gut check.
It is.
Yeah.
Right. How it's astronomical where you've gotten. And when I ask you that question in the class today is what drives you? Because at what point do you stop growing, and what point do you stop learning?
I will never stop growing, and I will never stop learning.
Why?
Because I get emotional about this stuff. I feel very called to grow and expand for the communities in which we live. And it is so important to me that the world needs more leaders. They do. And the world needs more leaders to teach other leaders how to give in the communities in which we serve, that we live and we serve. And we are called to serve, and leaders serve. And I think that it will to me, if I go small, then I'm serving the world small. And I'm here to serve the world big. And I get to do that because I get to partner with, incredible people in our lives.
Absolutely. Do you have anything to add to that, Scott?
I don't know. You just, you do a really, I know. And I'm obviously not the emotional one out of the two of us, right? Why do we do what we do, and what keeps us going? It's to me is I just like to build things, and once we get to a certain level, then you realize, there's something else, we can do this a little bit differently that I didn't even think about until we got to this level. So then we start building something else. So to me, that's what gets me up in the morning. Obviously, we talked about in our class today. There's something just huge about seeing people on your team that they were making $35,000 a year, whatever, as a teacher, doing whatever, and now they have huge lives making 250,000 plus a year, and that's really rewarding to see, and that's multiple people on our team. So it's really cool to see.
So how do you help them with their financial thermostat to where they're comfortable making 250 after making 35?
We actually just started implementing net worth meetings where we're doing that monthly, and that is really fun. So there's a vulnerability aspect to our team, and that's why I always ask everybody that's interviewing with us to call other team members before they commit, because we hold each other accountable, and so we're going to hold us accountable to personal budgets and our net worth, and what is it that they want? Yes. But how can we teach them to be better stewards with their money? Just because I didn't have anybody to teach me how to do that.
Most people don't,
Yeah.
right? It's not taught in schools.
Yep.
The other thing I think that is a huge necessity to get where you are now, let alone where you're going, is mindset. What do you do for your mindset, Scott?
I read a lot.
Okay.
So I try to get up in the morning. Obviously read the
Miracle Morning.
The Miracle Morning. Thank you. Yes, read that and try to model that to my own.
Right.
And so I get up at 5. I'll read. I'll kind of stretch, do a little meditation, whatever. And that's. But I think reading and reading the right things just starts your day off right, and where you have the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I wish I could say that I read a lot. I don't. I guess I'm a runner. I love being outside, and I love time to meditate. I do firmly believe there's a fire in my soul, and I feel like I'm trying to prove the world something, and maybe that's where my mindset comes in. Whenever I feel like I'm about to have a breakdown, then I know I'm going to have a breakthrough. I listen to music. I dance. I love to dance. I used to teach hip-hop dance. I used to dance for University of Memphis. So running and just really getting quiet in my thoughts as to why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Okay. Well, how much does Keller Williams play a role in your mindsets?
Well, I have not seen a culture like Keller Williams. When I walked into the office the first day, and I was interviewing with the team, and just the positivity and all of the motivational quotes and just the things that people say, it's just a different environment. I mean, I remember an agent in Nashville was teaching a class and said, because I raised my hand and I said, well, I'm not from Nashville, it's harder for me. And he looked at me and said, all right, everybody raise your hand who is from Nashville. There's like 50 people in the room. 2 people raised their hand. And then he said, are we done with that? And I loved it. And I was like, thank you for calling me out, because it was a redirect. And I've not been in an environment, and I can handle that type of redirect. Some people might not be able to, but I needed that. That was just, I was feeding my brain with garbage. And he cleared that out for me really fast.
And I think to answer your question too is, the models that we see in Keller Williams, they change your mindset too. When we went to Mega Camp for the first time, it's like, holy crap! Like, this guy's 25 years old and he's doing $200 million. Like, it just opened your mind to the possibilities and the models that they use to get there. So that just changes your mindset right there, just seeing that, and then multiple people doing it.
Just showing you that it's possible.
So at your current level, why are you still going to Mega Camp and family reunion and that kind of stuff?
There's still always one nugget you walk away with, and it's they say you can never be done learning, and there's somebody that's always bigger, badder than you that's doing something better, and I can learn from them and I can model from them. So success leaves clues, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
And I go to get humbled. I mean, it is so important to go in there and get humbled, because when we're in our local markets and we're all doing big things as entrepreneurs, and then when you are surrounded by people doing things 10 times what you're doing, number one, it's model, and then number two, it's for you to get right, and get back to planning and understanding that it's time for you to scale up and you're playing small. And I want that every time I walk into a room. I want somebody to redirect me and to stop playing small.
Shoo, well, you're certainly not playing small.
Well, see, I feel like we're still playing small.
So how much of that do you think is the homeostasis of this is, I want to go back to what I'm comfortable with. Because everybody else sees you differently. Why is it that it takes us so long to see ourselves differently?
I think you know all your warts, right?
Yeah.
And we all have that. We all have our insecurities, everything. And so I think everybody has a different view of themselves and what everybody else perceives you as.
Right. I think the moment I see myself as, I'm everything, I have fallen very short. I fully believe that if I want to, again, it goes back to humbling myself for growth. And I want to make sure that I constantly look internal and say, yes, we've done some great things. I've been able to do some really awesome things outside of real estate. But it's not, I know in my heart of hearts, this is just the beginning. And so that's why I want to be humbled.
Absolutely.
Not so much that I want to fall back on our face like when we were in Atlanta pulling pennies together, but it is important because the moment we think our ego, think we're big shots and egos are involved, then we have stopped growing.
Absolutely.
And we will not have the astronomical growth anymore.
Right. Wow. It sounds like your team is very, very blessed to have both of you.
We're blessed to have them. They're awesome.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So why Keller Williams? Did you start with KW?
Yes.
Okay.
It first started, we read MREA, and it was a model. And I love the fact that we could market ourselves alongside Keller Williams. And I think that was probably the original reason why, right? I mean, because you were really big on marketing and branding.
Yeah, I mean, when it was just you and I was still in dental sales, it started out as the Lacing Group. And
wow, you had vision immediately.
Well, we were laughing because it said Lacing Group, and then he worked his internet magic, and we were, top of Google, and there was no group, but it was a somewhat group. So yeah, that, and then, to this day, we walk out of some of those events and some of the masterminds, and I'm like, I think it's insane that others can't see what this network and the platform of Keller Williams provides. This company is it's global, right? There's global outreach, and what they do outside of just real estate in the communities, and what they do with KW Cares, they are not just a real estate company.
What are some of the things that they do?
Just giving back into the communities. There's natural disaster just hit in Florida. I haven't been on the news today, but I guarantee you we're loading up trucks and they're on their way. And within, not even 24 hours of a hurricane striking. We went to Mega Camp, and it went from Mega Camp to Mega Relief overnight. Mm-hmm. And that was probably our favorite Mega Camp.
That's when they had the hurricane in Houston.
And just seeing people roll up their sleeves and get in serving. It's a company that serves. It's a model, and then it's a company that serves, and they continue to serve, and they do it on behalf of the agents. And then they also understand partnership, and they want entrepreneurs to have an opportunity to create some sort of business or platform and then have partnerships through their network. Mega Camp, talking about events. So I went to our first Mega Camp, and Scott had just moved. And he weren't even officially at Keller yet, because our goal was to get him out of corporate within a year. I had to make, it was like $150,000 in GCI.
We wanted 6 months worth of income.
And so I went home and I was like, everybody in the office is going and I want to go. And I just think we should put it on the credit card because that makes sense. Not really, but at the time I just felt like I needed to go. And I went to Mega Camp, and I remember all these agents asking me how many transactions and units and all these things. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I just want to make $1. And I appreciate what you're saying, and I just need to get to class. I don't even know how to read a contract at this point. And I was sitting at that Mega Camp, and that was when expansion rolled out. And I called Scott. I'll never forget this. I called after Gary rolled out expansion, and there was only like one or two expansionists at the time, and that was when they started ESO. And I walked out of the room, and I called Scott, and I was like, we're going to have an expansion team. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's really simple. We've already got this model. We're a group here, and we're just going to take that model and go into a couple different markets. Yeah. Well, in my head, I was like, it's no different than a fast food chain or franchise or whatnot. I was like, this seems so simple. Fast forward to 3 years, we're in Nashville, and we had just hired our first EA, who is still with us, and she is the life and like literally lifeblood of our company. And my mom had a surgery and had a stroke, and overnight, and then in 2 weeks we had picked up our stuff and moved to Memphis. And so I feel that we were at that mega camp to understand that, number one, expansion was a thing, and number two, it was already on our radar, and we realized really quickly that we had a business, because when I couldn't work. I couldn't work in Memphis, and I couldn't work in Nashville. We had a 6-month-old, and I had to take care of my mom. And so then the business in Nashville went from it was like 18 million to close to 30 million. It was wild, and I hadn't sold any real estate there. And so then we set up what we would call a reverse expansion, based on, a horrible incident that also is a reason why we got brought to Memphis. But we've gotten so many blessings, and my mom can still be with, our kids. But now we've got the reverse expansion, and then that really, I think if that hadn't have happened, I think we would have analyzed it so much that we would have never done it. And it kind of forced us and propelled us to do it a lot faster than we would have done it.
No, it did make us jump, and it would have been, I analyzed everything. So, we probably would have taken a lot longer. We would not have moved that fast for sure. I was building a website for Memphis, but we had no plans right away to do anything with that. So,
Wow.
yeah.
People make plans and God laughs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it really was. And then, Meredith, who is our agent, or the agent that's been with us the longest in Memphis, I had started sending her Millionaire Real Estate books, MREI, all those books. One thing, and just dripping on her, just because I knew at some point we'd be in Memphis, just didn't know when. And then as soon as Mom had the stroke, she called me and was like, "Hey, I'm ready to get out of teaching, and I want to take you to dinner, and I want to ask you some questions." And so then that all just kind of, it was, to me, we should have hired an assistant way before we did, but Michelle came on 2 weeks before the stroke. It just all happened, I don't want to say, it just fell into place from a lot of previous hard work, but it did fall into place.
Absolutely. Well, nothing happens easily.
Yeah.
That's a complete and total myth. All right. So you're with Keller Williams. You went to Mega Camp. Life is good. You're going to have an expansion team. Bam! Immediately you have an expansion team. Now what? Now where are we in your trajectory?
So we always had, or maybe this was just me, had the thought process that every time we hired somebody, I felt like our business should double. Right? Because
Even a realtor?
I felt like that our business should double. They're bringing in business, and we're bringing in business. So therefore, we're in a partnership. And to me, it was just very simple. And typically, it did until we realized. Well, I stepped out and went to the brokerage side, which was for the office as the team leader, and then we did kind of hit a stalemate, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say it's harder to scale as you get bigger. It's a lot easier to scale when you're first starting out, but you're not going to do, 50%. For the most part, 50% growth year on year. If we can do 20% growth, that's great. Yeah. We're really happy with that. And obviously, being in two separate markets, it presents its own challenges. Just communicating with everybody, making sure that we have the same culture in Nashville that we do in Memphis, or vice versa, right? So that's another. I don't want to say it's been a challenge, because we have such good glue people like Michelle, who's our EA. She's such a good glue person. Mina's such a good glue person in Nashville, where they've just created this almost their own success culture there, and they all just truly love each other. And then Memphis, you and Meredith and Corey, and we've all created a really cool culture in Memphis. So
we've always had a fun culture and a tight culture. We didn't have. Just until this year, in January, did we realize we didn't have what I would call a success culture, and that's where the leveling up of the business has transpired. So when I say that we were moving the needle forward, but it wasn't at the same pace, and I know that we have it in us to move the needle forward a lot faster than what we were the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's what's up and coming.
Yes.
So you were very open about your goals in front of a huge 70 people that you were just speaking to. Why do you feel so safe to tell everybody that?
Because if I don't tell anyone, it won't happen. I had a complete come apart probably in May. Was it May when I had a kind of a breakdown? And one of mentors, Matt King, flew into town and sat down and was like, well, where is your like vision for your life, and where do you want to go? And I just looked at him. I was like, well, here's my motivational interview. And he's like, nope, that's not what I'm asking you. I want to know, when you say life is done, like, what does that look like? Let's get really clear on, what did you want to accomplish? And so we went to the beach, and we went to Mexico, and I wrote out this entire plan of what I want for us as a family first, what I want for our kids, what legacy do I want to leave for our kids, and then what does that look like for business, and then what does that look like in terms of what I say change the world. And it just got really clear on numbers, and I understood. It's so funny to me we all know this. When you get very clear on where you're going and you start to tell people, it's weird how the world reacts, because it will respond. And if I don't tell people verbally, it's not going to respond. And within, I have I'm very passionate about poverty, and I'm very passionate about, human trafficking and ending that. We just have a lot of things going on in our world that is very dark. And I know I can't change it all, but if I can move the needle in some sort of positive direction to help, then I want to get involved.
You save one woman.
Correct. It's very near and dear to my heart.
Or child.
Yep.
Correct. And it all starts, in the city of Memphis. When we moved to Memphis, and I feel like this is Mom having the stroke, I learned through United Way that 40% of youth live in poverty. And that number just flew all over me, because that's all stems together. It's, poverty, education, human trafficking, drug abuse, all of it. Mm-hmm. And then literally when we got back from Mexico, we went and taught at the market center. And a young man, his name is Damon, stood up in the office, and he walks up to me and said, hey, I've got somebody that I want you to meet. And he introduced me to, his name is Austin with the Original Project. And he is building homes and working and living in homes, food deserts, and building these sustainability hubs, and then teaching youth how to grow, organic vegetables and create healthy options for people in food deserts. And then they're distributing over 800 meals throughout the city of Memphis. And I have fallen in love with him and his family. And he was like, and he looked at me and he was like, what is this? How is this in line with your vision? And I said, well, we're going to scale this. And I said, I have dreams to be in over 500 markets, and I want a sustainability hub in every market we're in so that we can create healthy food options for people in communities. And how can we make growing food cool again? And then teaching people, you're teaching people a trade and a hobby and a healthy food option, then that will also in turn help with, the generations and from there on after, and it helps decrease poverty. It gives a community's hope, and Austin has shown me that. I mean, he is a proven model for that. His vision is 10 times bigger than what ours is, but I'm just really excited to be partnered with him to be able to say, hey, we could use real estate, community, and sustainability hubs to help change poverty in America.
Yeah, because it's all tied together.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm all for that. So, why poverty? How did you grow up?
I didn't grow up poor. My dad's a welder. My mom served in the cafeteria at school. I feel that I was called to be back in Memphis when my mom had the stroke, and when I heard the stat of 40%, to me that was a calling. Said, you are going to get involved in changing this. 40% of youth in poverty. And then both of my brothers are football coaches, and I've listened to them tell stories about young men that are not 16 having put kids in a car and try to go get food for their siblings. It's just not okay. So that, to me, between my brothers being coaches to youth, hearing that stat for Memphis, and I know Memphis isn't the only city dealing with this, how can we create an organic approach? And that's exactly what the Original Project is doing. And he has a model for that, and we have an organic type business. To me, they go hand in hand.
That is beautiful. That is so cool. There's in Albuquerque, I don't know how many, but it's really horrible. Well over 1,000 homeless children. That it's not okay. It's not their fault. They didn't make the bad choices. However, as a product of poverty, it makes you stronger.
Yep.
Right? So if the difference that you're making. Tell me a story about one of your favorite things that either one of you or both of you have done for someone else. That what popped up first.
You've got something? You look
I think for somebody else, gosh, I feel like I would give myself for anybody. I would say taking care of my mom. I mean, it was hard. I got so emotional. My daughter was 6 months. And I had to choose. We were driving back and forth, and it was hard. I gave up career. I gave up being a mom, which I knew my mom didn't want that, but I had to. That was hard. I remember sitting in the hospital, and a lady came in. It was dark, and a lady that was cleaning staff came in, and she just looked at me, and it was completely dark, and she just said, "God is good." And she just looked at me, and it was, to me, an angel saying, "Hey, you're going to get through this. You're taking care of your mom, and you might be missing this time with your daughter and your husband and your business and all the things, but this is where you're supposed to be." And being able to help my mom and care for my mom during that time, what a blessing. I'm like, we had a business that we were able to stop. And corporate would not have given me that time.
Right.
And I still get to care for her. I still get to take her to get her nails done, or to go get her hair done, or go do things. And it's not the same, because she's not the same mom. But she is my mom. And she always will be my mom, whether she can talk to me as clearly as I would love for her to.
Yeah. I'll stay on the heaviness train here too, and just because I think some of the brightest moments in your life come from the darkest moments. It's weird how that happens, but one of the girls that was on our team, Whitney, she was actually there the night that you and I met. She passed away a year ago from COVID. She's our age. Just nobody ever would have foreseen that at all. She, had a husband and young son. Was he, Pierce? How old is he?
Last year he was 10.
He was 10. Big Braves fan, big just baseball fan. And so we decided, the Braves went to the World Series. We decided to send them to the World Series. It didn't make anything better.
Wow.
But for that kid just to have, 3 hours of just an amazing experience and just get his mind off of his mom not being there, that might be one of the favorite things that I've done for somebody.
And how much you love the Braves, and you've always wanted to go to the World Series.
So I'm from Atlanta, and I wanted nothing more than to go see the Braves play in the World Series, but I would rather this kid go do it.
Wow.
And I'm sure he appreciated it more than I did too. So.
And he will look back on that forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you'll never regret. Going and taking care of your mom is something you will never regret.
No.
Never. And so that is one of the biggest reasons that you love real estate is the freedom.
Oh, 100% the freedom, and just, gosh, it's given us so many blessings. Like, it really has. And then you get to turn around and be able to serve as a vessel to do that for so many others. And what an incredible career.
Yeah. We're in the life-changing business. Yeah. And it is so fun.
Yes.
It is so fun. If somebody would just take a chance, right?
Yep.
Just take a chance. Check it out. You don't have to work for the man, right? You can be the man.
And if you believe in yourself, you will go through all these obstacles, and you will look back and think, I could handle anything. Like we just did that. I just did that. But you've got to go through the hard to get to the goal.
Absolutely.
You just do.
All right. So, great piece of advice you've gotten in your lifetime. One from each of you.
I think mine is just being consistent and letting things compound, having that compound effect. Just if you keep moving the ball forward, all of a sudden the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You may not notice it right away, But it's like when I built that dumb website, right? I was teaching myself in the beginning, the coupon website, I didn't know it at the time, but I was teaching myself how to build websites for the future for real estate and how to generate leads for our business. So, and I didn't realize that, making the calls when I was in dental sales would help us in our future business. So I think it's just, you need to be consistent with whatever you're doing and keep pushing the ball forward, because it will start compounding, and all of a sudden you do have this huge business or this huge life.
So no matter what job you're in right now, do it the very best you can.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then you end up in a really cool position.
Mine would be not to feel sorry for yourself. My mom was really hard on me. I will never forget. I was supposed to be the cheer captain, and she was a sponsor, and she gave it to someone else, and I felt sorry for myself. And it was one of the best lessons, because she came into my room and said, I'm the sponsor, it's a conflict of interest, and I'm going to need you to utilize this as a learning opportunity to understand that life is going to throw curveballs. Things are going to happen that really suck. And you can use that twofold. I could, step off the cheerleading team because I feel sorry for myself, or I could show up at a higher level as a leader and understand that I can rise above that, because I need to understand that life is going to happen for all of us. And it's how my mom always taught me how to react to it. And I think that was her way of teaching me a lesson early on, that if you feel sorry for yourself, you will certainly be stuck.
What a gift.
Yeah.
Can you imagine saying that to your kids, or doing something similar and saying,
well, everything that happened to her, and watching her try to read and write and walk, she's totally living that. I mean, I could feel sorry for myself that I don't have a mom that is as active as we had hoped. But what a gift, though, that we've been given because of all of it. And same thing for her. She's still able to be with her grandkids.
And they are precious.
They are wild.
Oh, okay. Any last things that you want to tell our mostly entrepreneur audience?
Say, if you set out for a venture, don't stop. I mean, surround yourself with people that will encourage you, redirect you, and help you protect your mindset. But if you stop, then you will have lived, in my opinion, you have created a small world. If you choose to keep going, you will create a very big world for yourself I could not imagine where we would have been if we would have stayed in corporate. And I just feel like you started the path for a reason and finished the path.
Okay. How about you, Scott?
I think just believe in yourself too. It's we had a lot of naysayers when we got into real estate. It was not really the best time to get in. The market still was not great. We both had good jobs, but we believed in ourselves, and we just kept pushing forward. And I think if you understand that you don't have any limitations, the only limitations you have are what you put on yourself. So I would just say, understand yourself better than anybody else does, and just keep pushing forward.
I got one more thing too to say. I said this on a podcast last week. Comparison is the end of you, right? So be very careful about comparison, because you are your biggest competitor. And I think oftentimes people see us and we see others, and it's so easy to compare ourselves. But the only person that you're competing against is what you want out of your life. And I think you have to constantly inspect that from within and internally. And I think a lot of times we look outward in that. We should look inward.
Good advice. Thank you both so much for coming to Albuquerque and blessing all of our audience and our whole market center.
They're such a fun group. They were so fun today.
Well, thanks for having us. It's a beautiful city. It's awesome.
All right. Thank you, guys.